Thanks again for staying with us on the program this morning on ITV TMI. As I told you at the beginning of the show, we have a very special guest in the studio on our special interview series. Well, anytime you mention microfinance banking in the world, one name comes to mind readily back home is the person of Dr. Godwin Ehigiamusoe, Managing Director of Lift Above Poverty Organization, also known as Lapo. Let's just give you a little profile on how Lapo came into existence, a vision Dr. Ehigiamusoe had several years ago. Lapo is a non-governmental organization, non-profit development organization committed to the social, health, and economic empowerment of the poor and vulnerable in Nigeria. Lapo was founded by Dr. Godwin Ehigiamusoe in 1987 while working as a rural cooperative officer in Ogwashiku, present-day Delta State. Over the years, the organization has demonstrated uncommon commitment to poverty alleviation through the implementation of innovative financial and non-financial programs targeting disadvantaged groups. Lapo programs include the provision of flexible financial services, gender sensitization aimed at reducing the level of gender inequality, social exclusion, and health intervention. Other areas of programming are malaria and tropical diseases, cancer, HIV/AIDS, water sanitation, and hygiene. Dr. Godwin Ehigiamusoe, many thanks for coming on the program TMI.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Here.
All right, I'm sure this question is one that you're familiar everywhere you go.
Yeah.
How have you been able to build such a brand that is still growing and taking the world by storm, changing lives, changing testimonies, making women smile, making people smile? How have you been able, because of the peculiarities of the Nigerian system?
Yeah, I think whatever we have achieved had very solid foundation.
Okay.
Going back a little, my years in university, 1977 to 81, apart from my studies, I was deeply involved in organizing symposia, seminars for students, trying to synthesize them on the fact that the only way you can assess a society is purely on the condition, especially the socio-economic condition of persons at the bottom end of that society. And therefore, when I left university, I joined a cooperative. And at that point, I have actually been highly sensitized on how do we bring about better life for the ordinary people. So Lapo, therefore, was a product of that thought process. And the second thing is the fact that we were able at the beginning to clearly conceptualize what poverty is. And for us, it was 1, material deprivation, 2, poor health, 3, social exclusion. So we design microcredit, or what you call microfinance today, to address material deprivation. Provides financial services to people who are able to use that to enhance the condition of members of their household. Provide health awareness. Now we're moving into intervention. And thirdly, organize activities that aim at social empowerment of people at the bottom end. Lastly, I would also attribute the success of this brand to a group of very committed young people. I have had the luck right from the beginning to have people, young Nigerians, intensely committed to my vision, and we have, maintained that tempo until where we are today. So it's therefore whatever we have achieved and we eventually achieve is purely as a result of very sound foundation for the organization. the fact that we have very committed people.
How were you able to deal with some of your initial fears? I mean, considering the very unfriendly business environment in Nigeria.
Of course, for 30 years we have had, times where we are in the valley of fear.
Okay.
And we obviously have been on the hill of celebrations. But how have we been able to deal with challenges in the environment? The first thing is that we had an abiding faith of what we are doing, and also more importantly, faith in God that will take us through. The second factor for us that we have been clearly innovative. The best way at times I describe myself, and by extension describe Lapo, is that we live in the future.
You live in the future,
yes.
But you are in the now,
yes.
but you live in the future now.
And that way we are able to sort of, proactively act in a manner that we identify opportunities. We try to look at where are we going to be in the future. We are there, and in most cases, many people come and meet us in the future. And at that point, we have for example, we have microfinance banks today across the country and indeed across the world. 30 years ago, when we were doing things like this, it was unusual. For many people, it was unreasonable, and to many people, it was not viable. But we continue knowing that we have this a country that have a large number of population, extremely enterprising, but desiring one factor to sort of enhance that their potential, and that was credit. And today, as it is obvious, so that has taken us on that we are very proactive in our action. We are taking a step to, now that many people think, why do you want to do this? But we strongly believe that this is the way to go.
Okay, in line with that step, because that's actually where I'm going, the Benin Medical Care Hospital will be inaugurated on the 1st of November.
Sure.
At what point did this come into the picture? Was it always there? What informed this decision?
It has always been there, but what has happened is a more of amplifying that process. If you realize that at the concession of Lapo about over 30 years ago, it was about access to credit. It was also about access to health and also access to social empowerment. So for many years, we have always been in the creating awareness, the space of creating awareness. It will interest you to know that Lapo was quite active and also acknowledged as a very key actor in the fight against HIV/AIDS. Across communities, we organize persons, especially women that were affected, into what we call support groups. And we provide them credit for their business, and more importantly, we provide them support on nutrition. So we've been doing that, but what we have just started to do, what we're about to do, is that we want to see how we can enhance our health programs. For many years, we have always organized what we call rural medical outreaches, where we go to communities and provide some basic services. But today we have setting up, on Friday, we are commissioning an institution that will be a platform for us to clearly reach out to people, especially in the health space.
What's your assessment of the state of health and facilities in Nigeria? Did this come into the picture in designing this project that
Of course, it did. On the last week, we had the 26th annual Lapo Development Forum, and the theme was on health. And we had people to talk about the state of. It's very obvious that today the biggest challenge we have, maybe apart from unemployment, is access to health facilities. And so we as an organization committed to poverty alleviation felt that we needed to intervene. Let me give you an example. About 5 years ago, a niece of mine actually was sick. She fell sick, and they were treating her for malaria. And about few days or so, a week later, it was discovered that her kidneys were going away. And eventually we lost her. And I felt strongly that it may be if the facilities were available, perhaps maybe she would have survived. And she is just a figure, and that could actually reflect what we have.
Okay.
And when you also realize that many people at times say they have assets to actually have access to health facilities across in other lands, why can't we therefore provide almost the same facilities that's where they go to in our environment? And that's actually is one of the reasons why we decided to set up the center.
What's new in terms of the Lapo Benin Medical Hospital that is coming on board? I mean, what's new?
Yeah, I think what is new about it is the fact that here we have a well-resourced medical center in terms of personnel and equipment. There's no doubt about that. And the second thing related to that is the fact that we are creating a sort of a framework to ensure that low-income people have access to high-quality healthcare. And we're doing that through a sort of different arrangement. One of them is the health insurance scheme. We want to ensure that a large number of ordinary people actually subscribe to health insurance scheme, and thereby giving them opportunity to have access to very high-quality health services.
Thank you so much. If you just join us, it's TMI Tuesday, of course, on our special interview series. We have with us in the studio the Managing Director of Lift Above Poverty Organization, talking to us about a forthcoming event built for 1st of November, the inauguration of Lapo Benin Medical Care Hospital, a first-class hospital that has been put together by Lapo, which, of course, the MD has told us has always been part of the Lapo's vision to provide quality health care to the average Nigerian at a very, very moderate rate. Now, what's the level of preparations for this event? And then secondly, how ready is Benin Medical Care Hospital to really live up to expectations in this regard?
Let's begin with how ready are we. We've completed the facility that is fine. It's well equipped. We have in the diagnosis session, you have the MRI, the CT scan, and all that. And for the medical side of the hospital side of it, we equally have, a great equipment to be able to provide the quality health care we want to deliver. In terms of personnel, yes, we have also recruited the best, and we actually, in some cases, we looked outside the country to get the best to provide that services. Now, what are the preparation for the eventual opening of the facility? On the 2nd of October, that's this month, the staff resumed, and we wanted them to have a full month, training, bonding, understanding, using the equipment in a manner that when we eventually open, it's like they have always been there. The second one is that today, we are inviting our clients. Now our clients are the women. The women are coming in there today to more or less, say this is our institution, and we try to also explain why we have this facility of high quality and how therefore they can also have access to such quality. I talked about the health insurance scheme and other schemes will ensure that that's possible. The facility is also going to be organizing rural outreaches to be able to reach rural people. Tomorrow, obviously, we have the dedication, the prayer section, and then on Friday, we have invited our friends, and good enough, I need to say this clearly. We had huge moral support of our people in Benin City and environment, in fact, across the country. They are coming to support us to ensure that we commission the facility. We are ready. We are ready to go.
To what extent do you think this will impact on the challenge of medical tourism in Nigeria?
Perhaps what we try to do is probably what we have done with microfinance. Today we changed the microfinance practice not only in Nigeria, across the continent, I would say. And so what we are trying to also do here is to say, is it possible to provide quality service to ordinary people? Because that appears to be the dilemma. No, this is a high-end medical facility. Can ordinary people
access it? Yes.
So, but we want to break that dilemma. We do want to make sure that, look, it is possible. The second thing, we also want to liberalize access not only to a medical facility, also to medical information. There's so much in terms of awareness that we need to do.
Okay. This is quite strange. Let me say congratulations to
Thank
you.
You so much.
And we're looking forward to Friday.
Yeah.
You x-rayed the health sector and pointedly carved this out to meet this challenge of poor health.
Yes.
Are you targeting more of women? Because we know Lapo, some say it's been all about women. Is there any specific reason why that has been focus of Lapo?
I want to confess that we do not have any policy statement that says that we focus on women.
Okay.
But the reality is that we have larger proportion of women on our client base. It's more or less a fact of, or reality, development reality. It's a fact of development. We do know that the women today were the children of yesteryear that were deprived of access to education. I remember in the 50s, 60s, 70s, the young girl comes or go and learn hairdressing and probably in the process get pregnant and get married and all that, while the boys will just go on and get adequately prepared for adulthood,
okay.
which we are today.
Okay.
And so we felt that we needed to put our resources, limited resources, so to speak, in where the problem is more acute. Additionally, I do not also think there is, especially in developing countries, any society where women are treated as good as men. And for that reason, women are deprived. For us, in practice, we have seen it playing out, that if you see a poor man, for sure, is most likely to be a husband of a poorer woman. And therefore, we say, okay, let's put our resources where. But gradually, men are coming in. Now, when we started, it was 100% women, but today, I think they're about 92%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What structures are in place, or perhaps plans for partnership with other institutions to strengthen the Lapo Benin Medical Care Hospital?
Yeah, I think this is very important. We see that there are going to be levels of partnership. We're going to partner with institutions, even institutions that are outside the medical space. We're going to also partner with local medical facilities. There is need for partnership if we want to make the impact we want to make on our people health-wise. The third level will obviously go to be that we get to partner with some of our existing international partners, because we have very rich and robust international partnership, and we want to really leverage on this to see how we can support the center. But put all together, our goal, as it has always been for the past 30 years, is to see how can we act in a manner that empowers our people. How can we act in a manner that we have a woman that has access to affordable finance to do her business, improve the condition of member of her household? How can we have a woman that is sufficiently aware on the health issue around herself and her children? Then how can we therefore have a woman that is sufficiently, has sufficient information to be able to act in a manner that she has a voice, not only within her household, but also in the community?
You talked about several efforts in the past,
yeah,
in reaching out to communities just to ensure that some of these outreach activities are initiated to boost quality healthcare in the rural communities. Can you tell us more about the achievements recorded in that regard? And then I know some time ago you also had a campaign on cancer.
Quickly, yes. I think let me just begin by saying that about 5 years ago, we actually wanted to engage some local government health department to ensure how we could support, resource the local health center. We never had the desired response, you know, we actually wanted. And therefore we said, okay, let us do something else. We had great medical doctors who volunteer, and more specifically note the contribution of the doctor, he's now a professor, who actually was the past commissioner of health in Edo State. For leading that process. He was therefore then a board member of Lapo as an organization. So we go to different communities. We use their health center as a base, and persons in adjoining communities come for 3 days consultation, and they are provided with basic health services. And when you have cases that will need to refer, they were referred to, you know, to other institutions, especially in Benin City. We did that. We have been doing that in various communities, and this Benin medical care will also be a platform to continue to do that. So we say thanks to Professor Osifo. And the other thing we have done, we noted, is that we work with women across the country, across 34 states in Nigeria and in Sierra Leone. And we have come to notice the scourge of cancer among women. So we decided to implement a 3-year cancer project where we identify 5 states as the focal states. We screened and selected a number of local institutions because we needed to partner. And we developed a template for us. And then we used those institutions as implementing agent. The report came out and the board discussed it early this year. It was devastating. It was quite depressing when you look at what came out of that report. And we are now planning to say, what is the next step? How can we, you know, what area can we intervene to see how we can contribute our own quota as an organization to addressing this challenge of cancer? We hope, and I will know that, I will see to that, that the Benin Medical Care, that is the hospital and the diagnosis center, will play a major role in that regard.
So that's your expectation?
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about the event itself. It's taking place on Friday.
Yes.
Is it Friday now? 1st of November?
1st of November, which is Friday.
Which is Friday,
yeah.
Absolutely. Where's this medical facility located? Who are you expecting? I can tell for sure a large chunk of the people you are expecting, based on the history of Lapo.
The facility is along Adosua College Road.
Okay.
It's quite visible, and we wanted it to be so. When it comes to who are we expecting, like I said, we have huge goodwill in the city. Like I said, the women will obviously be adequately represented. We also know that people in the medical space will equally be. We expect also the government officials led by His Excellency, the governor of Edo State, to be there. We're expecting a lot of people. Like I said, the goodwill is huge, and therefore, if we are doing a thing like this, we expect that people will obviously come and demonstrate that goodwill.
What time is it taking off?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, you heard from the horse's mouth. The new innovation of Lapo is the Benin Medical Care and Hospital, courtesy of Lapo. Inauguration is on Friday, 1st of November. The hospital facility is located on Adesua Grammar School Road. 10 o'clock is the time. Be there and be part of the celebration of this outstanding achievement by Lapo. Now, just before we let you go, let's just look at some of the key challenges in Nigeria's economy. You have been there for 30 years. What do you think is wrong? Why we can't get it right economically and make life more meaningful? I saw in some of your the profile. You mentioned that in Nigeria we live on $1 and about 25 cents. That's far off from what the international best standards are. I'd like to get to perspectives.
When it comes to development, especially economic development, that would more or less transmit to better life for ordinary people. It's a combination of a lot of things. It begins with leadership is key. That's obviously the next level of that will be policy. What are the policy? First of all, the policy as policy, and then implementation of those policies that target the people. And we do understand, we do know that we have had challenges in those areas. So it is therefore not surprising that we are where we are. Someone said that if probably we have significantly developed we have developed in a manner that everybody will say we have, it could have, or should have obviously be a miracle. But miracles, do not also happen every time, especially in the life of a nation. And therefore, I still believe that every one of us we have a role to play in getting it better. For 30 years, we have identified that there are some challenges, especially around the whole issue of, how do we empower the ordinary people? We've been doing that consistently for 30 years. We also believe that other key partners in the development space, like the government and even the private sector, would equally want to do that, to play their part. I would also want to say that the private sector has a major role to play. We do understand that policy environment has impact. In most cases could be negative on the performance of the private sector. But I strongly believe that when it comes to job creation, for example, and even provision of some of the basic services like health and education, I think private sector should really come up and do something. It's not just about naira and kobo. It's also about service. And eventually, you could also get that naira and kobo thing.
So a few years ago, Ghana was the toast of, Africa.
Yes.
And I know in Nigeria, we used to talk a lot more about Ghana, but it looks like attention has shifted to Rwanda. That's a country that, had a very devastating civil war. So why are these countries getting it right and then we're finding it difficult?
Like I said, for me, I think everybody has come to the realization that it's probably about, leadership. And the leadership try to energize the people to follow on. But also remember that these countries at a particular point in time always had that attention. I remember also that in the 70s, in the early 70s, we came out of the Civil War very strong. And then in the midway, we have a very charismatic leader and all that. So global attention, even Africa, was on Nigeria. Because we led the way in the area of liberation of our brothers and sisters in the southern part of Africa. And that moved away for whatever reason, like you said, to Ghana. Now here we are with Rwanda. Rwanda. And the Rwanda case, for me, the little I know about it is about the leadership again. It's a leadership again. And one thing I begin to also look at when I consider issues in development, I may not be right, that at times, nation requires some very terrible incidents to sort of galvanize the people to a point where they say, never again. Ghana had their challenge in the late 70s and the 80s, and they got to a point that say, never again. Nigeria had a challenge in the Civil War, and we came out of it and said we want to move forward. Again, Rwanda had their own challenge with the genocide, and they got to a point, put them together. Today, it's not about I'm a Hutu or I'm Tutsi, but I am a Rwanda. So it may be that
what we need.
The factor.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, it's been nice talking with the Managing Director of Lift Above Poverty Organization, Dr. Godwin Ehigiamusoe, a.k.a. Microcredit, a.k.a. Microfinance Bank. Dr. Ehigiamusoe, many thanks for coming on the program today. I will say a big congratulations to you on the forthcoming inauguration of the Benin Medical Care Hospital. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, the rest of the show will continue in a bit with my colleague, Felix Omogukmo. He will be here shortly. In a moment, Philip will be here shortly to continue with the rest of the conversation on TMI. Once again, thank you for staying with us on TMI Tuesday. Don't go away.